Now the position to pitch, the look at second. Van Dyke delivers. It's a ground ball back at the pitcher. He knocked it down. He picked it up on the dirt pitching hill, throws him out. Lane hit a high bouncer back at the pitcher, and the pitcher got his glove and the ball up over his head.
For those living hundreds of miles from Seattle, the Rainiers existed only in their imagination, guided by the voice of one man, Leo Lassen.
Here comes that ball. Curveball, a high foul over the left to the right. It was a breaking pitch, and he fouled it off. That might have been the slider.
For someone originally hired on the cheap and out of necessity, his abilities over the years to connect listeners to the wonders of the game were priceless.
The high pop fly going to Albright. Jackie is under at the edge of
The tradition was that everybody listened to Leo. You could walk down the street for whatever distance you wanted to walk, and you heard the ball game. We didn't have transistor radios. You heard the ball game because almost every house had the game on.
You know, he wasn't just a baseball announcer, he was radio entertainment too. You'd turn him on and you'd hear the nasal twang that he had.
Start with the shortstop, right at him. Up with the ball, sidearm to first, easily out. Schuster over to Moran, one away.
You knew what a pitcher was doing. You knew what an outfielder was doing. He explained the game to you. He was the greatest painter of a story that you'll find around.
Nobody knew the rules of baseball any better than Leo Lassen. He knew the rule book from cover to cover, and he was very proud of that because he would be able to interpret what was happening on the field even before the umpires got around to explaining.
Into the dirt with a knuckleball and it bounced back at the backstop. That's what I'm going to call it because that's what it looks like from here. 2 strikes and a ball.
And I remember that Alan Nemec, who was one of the players, he was second baseman on the team that I was on, mentioned this quite prominently one time, that Seattle fans are better educated than those you find in, say, Portland or Sacramento or San Diego, because he said, we have an announcer up there who explains the game to them.
When the Rainiers went on the road, Lassen remained behind, broadcasting games from a recording booth. With scant information coming over a teletype, Lassen would recreate the ball game in colorful detail.
You wouldn't know if he was at the game or not, just by listening to him. He just had an amazing ability to do that. You were there. He made you feel you were there.
And at the end of each broadcast, they would make that announcement that this game was recreated. But still, it was very hard to believe because he'd make everything sound so real.
Seattle wins both games of the Twin Bill.
By 1940, the small town of Seattle had blossomed into a city of 368,000. Trackless trolleys replaced the city's cable cars. The nation's first floating bridge spanned Lake Washington, prompting suburban growth. Removed from the rest of the country, Seattle thrived on its independent spirit and held PCL baseball in high regard.
Most of the people, you have to remember, were so separated geographically from the major leagues that they paid very little attention to them. The big thing out here was the Coast League.
For me, and probably for most of my friends, the PCL was it. The discussion in the playground every day was about the previous night's game. And these guys stood tall with us. Boy, they were really heroes, and we thought that was the best baseball there was.
From Seattle to San Diego, the PCL had firmly established itself as the West Coast's premier league. Of the 8 American League and 8 National League teams, none were located further west than St. Louis. The growing reputation of the 8-team Pacific Coast League fueled comparisons and debate.
The Coast League had some ball players that were almost interchangeable on the roster of some of these the major league teams.
We had players in the Pacific Coast League. They were winning 16, 17 games, pitchers. They went to the big leagues and they're winning 23, 24 games.
I made more money in the Coast League than I did in the majors. And that's why I stayed here. I could have gone back with Stengel and the Yankees, but I turned them down.
Far from the politics of the majors, the Coast League was free to develop its own personality. The PCL adopted a 178-game schedule that featured a weekly 7-game series. Beginning on a Tuesday, teams battled for 5 straight games, often ending in a pivotal Sunday doubleheader.
I think the 7-game series really helped that. The people got caught up in bad umpiring and fights and winning one by one. And boy, by the time that last doubleheader on Sunday was played, that place was loaded.
For the 1940 season, manager Jack Lelevelt continued to emphasize speed and pitching. Rainiers fans bid a fond farewell to the old Indians power hitter Mike Hunt and said hello to a talented but colorful infielder named Bill Schuster.
He drove the manager crazy, Lelevelt nuts. You don't know what the guy was going to do next. I remember one night we were in the game, Schuster hit a ball back to the pitcher. Instead of running to first, he ran out and slid into the pitcher's box.
He would do goofy things like climb the screen and, wave at people and all that stuff. And he was always doing something.
He was a flaky guy, but let me tell you something, that guy knew how to play baseball.
With the proper guidance from the Rainiers manager, Ito Vanni had developed into the quintessential Jack Lelevelt player. Batting .301 and .325 the previous 2 seasons, the right fielder from Queen Anne brought consistency and speed to the lineup. Vanni talked a good game as well, goading opponents and stirring up his own dugout to keep the team loose.
Ito was, Ito's a pepper pot. Sometimes that's good on a ball club, to have one guy that agitates the rest of them.
Hell, I got knocked down one time and I slid on the second base and took this loose stringer. I didn't slide at him, I hit him in the midriff. Next thing, we got a big fracas going on at second base, everybody. I'm not even in the fight. I hit the guy.
With a cast of colorful characters playing an exciting, finely tuned game of baseball, the Rainiers became the biggest ticket in town. Close to 300,000 fans came to Six that year to watch the Rainiers play their best season ever.
It was regarded as the classiest place to be. If you wanted to be where the action was, that's where you went. You went to a baseball game.
It was the only game in town. There wasn't any other professional sports in the Seattle area, and there wasn't any television to divert you. There was almost always 12,000 to 13,000 there on a Sunday doubleheader.
With a league-leading 137 stolen bases, the Rainiers literally ran their way to another pennant. Seattle won 112 games and lost just 66, winning the pennant by a 9.5-game margin. Barrett and Turpin combined for 47 wins. Vanni hit .333 for his 3rd consecutive season over 300. The Los Angeles Angels' Lou Novikov led the league in home runs, RBIs, and batting average. But despite these feats, the PCL honored Seattle first baseman George Archie as the league's most valuable player. Playing every inning of every game, Archie's leadership proved the Rainiers' greatest asset. With his best season yet behind him, Lelevelt now had the formidable task of trying to hold on to his championship team. His handiwork had brought 2 pennant flags to Six Stadium, and expectations for next season would be high. On January 20th, 1941, the Harlem Globetrotters came to Seattle. Attending the event that night at the University of Washington would be Jack Lelevelt, Ito Vanni, and Torchy Torrance. Halfway through the game, the Rainier manager slumped over and fell from his chair. Struck by a heart attack, Lelevelt died before reaching the hospital. The next morning, a stunned Seattle grieved.
That's one of the few times I really felt sad, because he was just like a father to me. And I know all the other ball players felt the same way.
Oh God, I cried. I'm sure a lot of the others did too.
Was one of the greatest psychologists I've ever seen in baseball.
He knew baseball and he could get it out of the guys. I don't know exactly how he did it, but he did.
Speculation began about who would take the reins of one of the best minor league ball clubs in the country. Rumors of Babe Ruth's interest were soon squelched when the job was given to Bill Skiff, a former catcher working in the New York Yankees farm system. The 1941 Rainiers stumbled out of the gate, while the Sacramento Solons dominated Seattle and the rest of the league. By mid-June, Seattle was 15 games out of first.
The champs can relax and quit worrying about overtaking Sacramento and confine their efforts to keep from falling out of the first division. You can pay off on those sacks right now. Royal Brome.
But Skiff refused to concede the season. He stood by the lineup that had served his predecessor well. Solid pitching from Paul Gregory and West Seattle native Ira Scribner helped the Rainiers climb the ranks. In early September, a doubleheader win over San Francisco nudged Seattle into first place for the first time in the season. On September 10th, after Dewey Soriano clobbered the Angels 14-3 in the first half of a twin bill, Cupid Dick took the hill and clinched the PCL crown. The Rainiers raised their third consecutive pennant, and Seattle fans sent a 50-foot congratulatory telegram to the Rainiers Hotel. In the previous 4 years, Seattle's dismal baseball reputation had been completely transformed. What was once an embarrassment was now the most dominant organization in PCL history and home to the nation's most popular minor league team. But Seattle's golden age of baseball was not immune to the course of history.